A common question about crochet is what to do when my crochet is too tight, too loose, or uneven. Fortunately, there's a lot you can do about that. The first thing really is to crochet a lot. Much of these problems will improve as you crochet a lot. But apart from that, one of the first things to check is that your yarn and hook go together. In most cases, the yarn label tells you a suggestion for the size of hook and knitting needles, and that would be at least a starting point. I find that in many cases it's just the right one for me, but it's rare that I would have to go very much lower or very much higher in the hook size. When you have a specific yarn that you want to use and you are not happy with your gauge, change it 0.5 millimeter up and down and then continue working like that. Now, if you are working on your own without a pattern, like for instance you are making a baby blanket using a specific stitch, then you don't need to be counting how many stitches you need. But if you are working to a pattern and the project is something that needs to be the certain size, especially clothing, then you need to be very sure that your gauge is the same as in the pattern. Otherwise, what you are making will be either too small or too big. But if it's something like, say, a scarf, amigurumi, or something else that it doesn't matter exactly how big it's going to be, then just find a combination of yarn and hook that work well for you, where you can do it most even and not too tight and not too loose. In seeing lots of people crochet over the years and decades, I find that the tendency to crochet too tight is harder to get rid of than if you are crocheting too loose for some reason. Then another thing that affects a lot what your crochet result looks like is how you hold your yarn and your hook. Now, there are so many different ways, and with most ways, with practice, you can get even results. But if you have this problem, there are some things that you could check that can you change the way you crochet. And I'm especially thinking of if you are making unnecessary movements or movements that cause the yarn not to run smoothly all the time. From all the different ways that I have seen that people crochet, the most likely way to cause uneven stitches is that you have to sort of help the yarn. You sort of pull it, help it to run smoothly. Then it most likely doesn't. And another one is that you are wrapping the yarn around fingers and then having to loosen again. I know that some people have learned to crochet evenly also with that technique, but especially if you are sort of starting out, try to find a different way. I actually have this video that I'm showing more than 10 different ways of crocheting and holding your yarn and holding your hook. So there are many, and after publishing that video in the comments, I have found at least 10 more. It's not easy to change, but in some cases it might be worth it. And then another reason for uneven stitches is very bad quality yarn. I find that, I dare to say that I crochet extremely evenly, but there are some yarns, especially very cheap acrylic yarns, that it doesn't matter what you do, it's never going to look nice. So it might be worth even crocheting a bit less and spending more money on getting good quality yarns, or trying to get them in secondhand stores, because if you see that your result isn't nice, that's going to put you off crocheting. Also, some yarns just take more practice, especially boucle yarns, chenille maybe that way, and then crocheting with thread and a tiny hook. Those simply take practice, so if you're wanting to crochet those yarns, don't give up. Then what affects it is your hook. Now, these here hooks are all the same size. They are 3.5 millimeter. There are two main types of hooks in crochet hooks, tapered and inline. And out of these here that I have that all are the same size, only this one is inline, so it's sharper. So you can guess that I mainly use tapered hooks. And which type you have can affect how you crochet. Inline hooks can be easier to get through stitches because it's a sharper tip, but it also splits the yarn more easily. And tapered hooks are much more rounded and the hook part is shorter. So it can be, especially for new crocheters, that you drop a stitch more easily using these here ones. But just try out, see what works with you. For instance, these two, although they are the same size, you can see that one has the head of the hook is bigger, even though they're the same size here, where it's measured. These are actually the sort of basic hooks that I learned to crochet with that still now gets sold in every supermarket in Finland. So try different shapes, different handles or no handles, and different materials. Like this is wood, this is aluminum, and the rest are metal. But out of these all, I normally use my favorite, the Clover Amour hook. So find out and test what works best for you. So these were some of my tips for more even crochet. Do you have tips that I didn't mention here that you have noticed that work? Please write in the description if you do. Till next time.